Mohini Day, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
So, I've been following you for some years, and goodness, it says that your YouTube channel's been up since 2011. Maybe I've been following you for longer than that. I'm not sure, but
Mm,
it's been for a while. I mean,
yeah.
you've really turned into a uh, fantastic musician. And I'm looking on your YouTube channel, which describes you as bass player, composer, producer, and influencer.
Right.
It seems like you could add some other things to that list. Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
I always like to, say that I don't like to limit myself to just musician. I think we as human beings can be so many more things.
Mhm. So one of the things that uh, in an interview some years ago,
Yeah.
uh, you you had talked about you were talking about fashion and designing some of your
hmm
clothes.
That's right.
Yeah. So is that something that you're still sort of active doing?
Oh yeah, I've been doing that for the past 16 years from the time I started gigging, which was when I was 9 years old. I'm 25, going to be 25 this July, and I've been doing that on the side while I'm also, doing my gig life, managing my gig life. I've been my own manager since I was 9, and I've always wanted to do fashion. I didn't want to become a bass player actually as a kid growing up. I wanted to become a fashion designer. Wanted to pursue it as a profession. But my father was like, "Hey, there are so many girls out there. They're fashion designers, but nobody can play the bass like you do, and you must continue that on the side. Don't give that up. You can do the fashion thing on the side if you want to, but you've invested so much time and hard work in music, and I would really love for you to become something." And those words kind of stayed with me. And I thought to myself, there was this point in my life where I had three golden opportunities, which was one was I got offered a full scholarship by Berklee College of Music. And then the second opportunity was joining A.R. Rahman's band. And the third was I got selected in the application that I had applied for this fashion college in Mumbai. So all of them were golden opportunities for me. And I had a really hard time choosing from all the three options. But I thought to myself, well, music uh, involves a lot of performing. Music involves a lot of communication skills, a lot of business skills, all those kind of things. And if you have the package, which is the looks, the visual experience, as well as the audio experience, then it's a good blend. Then you can sell yourself very well as a brand, not just a musician. So I started working on that more because I found myself getting interested in that field more and wanting to manage myself and putting myself out there more of a brand, you know, more than
Mhm.
being a bass player or a vocalist or whatever. And yeah, I chose to be in a Rahman's band because at that time I thought, hey, I can actually stitch on the side like I've been doing all this time. I can design my clothes and still wear them for my gigs. And if they're good, people will notice, and who knows, maybe something someday will come out. Somebody will contact me and be like, hey, I love your outfits. And I do get a lot of messages on all my social media platforms, and they're like, hey, where do you get your clothes, who designs them for you and stuff like that. And I tell them, well, it's all my designs and I stitch them, most of them. And if I don't have the time to stitch, I will design them and get it made by my tailor here.
Mhm.
Yeah, so everything kind of went by simultaneously very nicely because I got to play in A.R. Rahman's band for 8.5 years, still work with him, um, record on his movies, record on background scores, jingles, and stuff, and do like collaborative projects with him. And now, of course, we're in the pandemic, so there are no live gigs happening. But if live shows were happening, then
Mhm.
yes, I am playing in his band. And I got to continue my fashion thing on the side. I wear my clothes on stage, and Berkeley and I have a beautiful relationship together. So whenever I go there, I get to check out their classes. I get to meet their students, and anytime they want me to do something like a workshop or something, they reach out to me, and it's just a beautiful. Bond that we have formed over the years. And that's why they had me as a guest to perform at Berklee College of Music when A.R. Rahman was getting offered the honorary doctorate degree, because I had
Mm.
worked with him for quite some time at that point. And I was like probably 17 that time, 16 or 17, if I'm not wrong. And they thought I would be the perfect fit for that show because it was a 100-piece ensemble and they wanted somebody who could represent his band. So one guest artist was me and the other one was Prasanna Ramaswamy, who was on guitar, if you saw that video. So yeah, everything just was it just fell into the right place for me with that decision that I made.
Now, I've been especially the last probably 10 years, a pretty big Steve Vai fan.
Hmm.
What is it like? What is it like playing in his band?
It's wonderful. He's such a mastermind and such a humble musician. Probably one of the best human beings that I've ever met. So easy to work with, and so easy to read his mind. Also, maybe in spite of all the cultural differences, because I'm brought up here and I was taught music completely different than how he learned music in his childhood days. But we meet at the same page. That's the most beautiful thing about music. Like, no matter what your background is, you can still come at the same point and be on the same page with music, which I find very, very interesting. And I found that when I met Steve for the very first time, which was where was it? Man, I met him a couple of times now, so it's hard to remember. But I think it was at his house at this party that he threw, where Billy Sheehan was there and a lot of other artists were there. So I got to meet with them, and he introduced me to them. And he was like, appreciating me a lot and introducing me to these big personalities. And it was so wonderful because I never asked for those things. I was just, in fact, before Steve I contacted me, I only got to know about him because of my sister. My sister plays the guitar, and she was a huge fan of Steve Vai. And on the side, I was only listening to a lot of jazz music. So I knew all the jazz heads. But my sister, she was a metalhead and she still is. So she was like, what would be really cool is if you get to play with, like Van Halen or like Steve Vai. I was like, who's that? And she showed me a video. And a week later, it is so funny. A week later, I get an email from Steve Vai. And I'm like, is he the same guy? And she's like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Yeah, so that's how it happened. And then he wanted me to play on one of his songs for his album called The Bop for the Modern Primitive album. And that's the first song on that record. And it was very Zappa-like treatment. And he said, hey, would you mind playing on this if you're interested? And he was just so humble. He said, Steve Vai, guitar player from America. And I was like, wow, a musician, a big musician like him talks like that. He didn't even need to say that I'm from here or I'm a guitar player. His name itself just gives it away. Um, but just that humbleness and just that generosity and kindness that he had in his uh, statements while he was writing the email, and I read it and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And it really shows in his music the kind of person he is. And yeah, what after that I played on the song. I think it was I took like a couple of hours, and the very next day I sent I recorded it after my show. I got back from my show I did with Ranjit Barrett, who plays with John McLaughlin. He's the drummer for John McLaughlin, and I was playing with him. And after that show, I recorded on Steve's song at his studio because I didn't have a studio that time. And Ranjit Uncle was really kind enough to let me use his studio. So I used his studio and I recorded on the song and I sent the track.
Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
On the song, and I sent the tracks to Steve, and he was mind blown of the things that I did, because I gave him two options. One is the finger option, finger style option, and one is a slap style option. And I told him he could blend the two and use whatever he feels like. And he was just so he was very appreciative, and he was mind blown. And he said, hey, I would love to meet you when you're in LA. And I happened to be in LA after a couple of months for NAMM. And that's when I got to meet him in person. And then we played for Mama Jamathon. And when he was touring in India, I got to play like 2 songs with him on stage. I was performing with my band in that same music festival. He was the closing band. So my band played before him. And then I played as a guest with him for like 2 songs alongside Philip Bino. That was really sweet. Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it was a dream come true. Actually, it was a moment. It was a very overwhelming and emotional moment for me on stage, for sure.
Yeah, he in all of the interviews that I've seen with him, of was not one of the worst things that can happen to someone is they meet their idol or someone that they hold in high esteem,
right?
And they're a total jerk.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's like one of the worst things. Or
I mean, been there. Been there. Yeah, I've met a few of them, but yeah, I'm not gonna take names, of course, but right. That's really bad. Yeah, that is bad. Yeah, what to do? But what can you do? You're in this music industry, and you've looked up to them all your life, and then you get to meet them in person, and you find out, man, this is not what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I have found that more often than not, our heroes are going to disappoint us.
True, very true.
More often than not. And so when you find someone like a Steve Vai or like a Victor Wooten, it's just it's great situation.
It's crazy because as a girl child growing up in India, it was very, very tough because my extended family was not very happy that I was a girl. So my mom and dad, they separated from the extended family and moved to the city so they could give me a better life here. And my mom is a singer, so they wanted to have achievements in the music field together as a band. So they formed their own band, started playing for musicians, and they struggled so much to give me a better life, And then I had my struggle, because a lot of people say that, oh, both your parents are musicians, so you must have had it easy. It's not. It's really not, because everybody has their own struggles. Even if you're a guy and you chose an instrument that is not very famous, or, you still got to prove yourself in whatever field you are, People are not going to want to work with you if you're not... if you don't have the right communication skills, if you're not a good person, if you're not kind-hearted, if you're not interested, and you have the attitude, like you mentioned, nobody's going to want to work with you, And even if you want somebody, they might not want to work with you unless you have like the financial power to get them, Having said that, I was always hearing a lot of this, which was, so this was what my father was told most of the time, which is, oh, I see your daughter is playing the bass, which is a male instrument. She needs the stamina. She needs the strength to play that. Yeah, I guess she's gonna get better. But it was more like sarcastic, like they don't want it, but they're just saying it, So my father took it as a challenge upon him, and he was like, I'm going to make both my daughters so strong that nobody's going to be able to point finger at my girls, So he started teaching me, and I think around 6 or 7, I seriously started taking lessons. But he really started teaching me at when I was like 3. He noticed the interest and he noticed the rhythm sense that I had. I could tap the right tempo to whatever he was playing. It was just a bass group. And I don't know if you know this story, but he put the headphones on my ears every time he would practice in the house. So I guess it just was, I was feeling the groove. I was starting to feel what that is. And I picked up things very quickly. And he said to himself, okay, I'm going to train her. And if it's her dream to pursue it as a profession, then be it that. And it would make him the most happiest father. And I developed the interest for it after I started getting achievements, because I started enjoying the spotlight. And there was something inside me which was more like fire, because people constantly kept on telling me that, oh, hopefully she'll get the strength to play the bass. Hopefully she'll get the power to slap the bass like a man does, And that kind of, it boiled my blood every time I heard that, And that fire uh, came out of my hands every time I would practice. So I would lock myself up in the studio. I didn't have no computer. We didn't even have a house. My father and mother would starve themselves to feed me at one point. And then after I started working and making name and making waves in the industry, I started bringing money in the house. And there was a point where my father stopped working because there were no gigs at one point. For a bass player, it's really, really hard, And then we as new generation, we understand all this social media, internet stuff, I had to learn it too. I didn't have no computer at home, so I had to learn it too with my own experiences, with my colleagues in my music field, growing up playing with a drummer, growing up playing with a kanjira player. It introduced me to so many different types of backgrounds and cultures. And India is so culturally diverse. And I think that's why I have the understanding of versatility that can come from a place like this, And when we go to another part of the world, it's very fascinating because they've never heard anything like this, But yeah, it's everybody has their own struggle, and you just gotta keep practicing and completely devote yourself to that one thing that you want to do and not have an option B at all, because then you have undivided attention.
Yeah, the personal struggle thing, that's real. It doesn't really matter what a group of people that seem to most closely relate to you, whatever, in whatever way. It doesn't really matter what the sort of group level of achievement is or whatever.
Right.
All that matters is your own, your own effort towards what you want.
Yeah, and your own satisfaction, I believe, because everybody's belief and reality is very different. Achievement, success, everything is subjective, to each person. So what is satisfaction to you? That's all that matters at the end of the day. Are you happy? That's all will matter at the end of the day. You're not going to be making other people happy and then be depressed and then not be able to continue that nature and that personality that you just portrayed in front of somebody. You will get exhausted after some point, and it will be a short career, So you want to be yourself, and you want to have a voice that is original and be that person,
Yeah, I suppose with respect to success, maybe the only thing that maybe is objective, if you're going to call yourself a professional musician, a freelance musician, obviously, if you can't make a living doing that, then obviously you're not going to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
And so there's sort of a practical definition of success in that way. But pretty much everything else it's kind of like what it is that you want it to be. And with social media and everything else, all the different ways, it's sort of a flat earth now.
Yeah, totally.
You really don't have to move to a certain part of the world anymore. Like in the States, you used to have to move to, New York or to LA or something, or maybe
Right.
Nashville. But that's not really the case anymore. You can do anything from everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to have that platform and you still have to have that goal of what you want to do. If you've already done things in a country and you feel like, okay, there is nothing more that I can do here, then you have to kind of have a talk with yourself about what you want to do in life. Is YouTube something that you want to do in life? Do you want to keep on doing that? Do you want to keep growing that audience, or do you want to invest your time into becoming more of a live performer? Then you gotta travel places and meet people and connect with people more, so then you can be on other people's tours or do your own independent music. That's another thing. So yeah, you definitely have to have some sort of game plan if you want to do anything. You cannot be doing anything from anywhere. Like, I'm at a position in my life right now where, after professionally working for 16 years here, I don't see anything that I can do here anymore. Yeah. I, of course, on the side have been doing YouTube. I've been doing, a lot of collaborative branding projects where companies reach out to me and we promote them as musicians because we're brands, just like they are. And it promotes them as well as us, and we get the monetary profit out of it through our audience, that can keep happening. That's just on the side. But is that something that you want to do all your life? And is that something that you can depend on all your life for bread and butter? No, absolutely not. So you got to have some type of goal plan. And this goes out to all the, people who are upcoming musicians and think that it's very easy to make a name out of playing covers, or make a name out of doing things that everybody's doing on YouTube. It's really not that easy. It looks all easy on the internet, but it really is not. There is strategy behind it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, uh, there's a couple other things I was thinking that you could add to your list. So one of them is, I've been watching some of your interviews that you've done. Mm-hmm. So how many episodes do you have now? Like 20 something?
Yeah, I think like 29, I think.
Yeah, right. And you're a very good interviewer.
Yeah, I want to continue doing that. I had lots of fun. It was fun for a bit, like during the pandemic, because the gigs stopped and I had more time. So I started doing it. And then I started getting like my mornings and nights started getting crowded by just recording sessions. Like a set of just people started reaching out to me to play on their albums. And I started getting so busy, and touch wood, like that has been on till today, and it came to a point where I was starting to lose weight and hair. It was really hard for me to manage everything, because I do my video editing, I do everything, like invoices, my talking to people, and like of course my music and everything. I've never had a manager. I do everything myself. I think it's high time now I need somebody to like do some type of like editing work and some type of like email work, because it is a lot. But yeah, it was really fun to do those interviews, and I really enjoyed interviewing them. I learned a lot of things about myself doing those. I learned a lot of things about my idols that I grew up listening to. It was really, really fun, and I would love to continue doing that when I have a little more time. Yeah.
Another thing that could be on your list is educator. I've seen some of your educational videos. I was watching one the other day, might have been yesterday, where you were going over a slapping technique where you're incorporating a couple more fingers so
Right.
that you can play some
Right. Yeah, I
harmony
started
notes. Like,
doing this like tip of the day thing. I've been doing that for the past like 3 days only, and people have been loving it. Where I'm doing my recording sessions and something that I feel like, while you practice and when you're recording for other people, you come up with stuff because you want to make it sound like nicer, or you want to do justice, or just make it sound cooler, So I start practicing those licks, and something comes up, and I'm like, oh wait, you know what, I should share this with people, they will like it. So I started doing that, and then people are like, oh my god, you should do more of that. And of course I do give out Skype lessons as well, so I have like around 20 students that take consistent lessons with me, and that has been fun, but with time it gets tricky sometimes, especially when you start gigging and then you want to manage this as well, then it's tough. Now it's easy because you have all the time to yourself and you can manage it. But yeah, definitely something that I see myself doing it maybe when I'm like 50 or something.
a wife. So that's
Oh,
something on your list, and that's pretty
yeah.
new, it seems.
Yeah, like 3 months only, newly married.
Yeah, I noticed the heart such on the back of your name, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, hold up, wait, what did I miss?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so I have one of my buddies. He was supposed to be married for a long time, but he couldn't do it because of the pandemic.
Oh, I see.
And so he's still waiting for when enough stuff opens up so that he can do
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also know that some folks have sort of gotten together, maybe expedited by the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, see, everybody's wants are different. Some people want to have the big fat wedding. I've never wanted that. I've never even wanted to get married. I was always I was very happy in my independent space. I've always done things to make myself stand on my feet and be independent and everything. So I've always been happy. And then I met this wonderful man 4 years ago, and he became my best friend over the years. It was never like romantic, never had a flirty moment. It was just like we became friends, and I was already seeing somebody else that time. I had an ex. And then we actually met in Goa, and we met at a music festival called Serendipity Arts Jazz Festival. And he was playing in another band, and I was in the closing band. And we met that time, and we had a wonderful, very, very deep conversation about a paradigm shift and like human anatomy and all that stuff. In the very first conversation, you meet with someone and you're talking about like all of this, and we connected so strongly about all of this. And we looked at each other and we were like, huh, interesting. And then I was like, well, you know what? Okay, it was lovely talking to you. I should go back now. And I'm never that person who hangs out after shows. So I went back to my room, and then like he was hanging out with his other friend horn players and my drummer and all the other guys. And he happened to ask my father figure, like uncle, Ranjit uncle, who I strongly believe he was like my second father, because he introduced me to the music world and he's always taken me under his wings. So he happened to ask him about my status. And he said, well, don't even think about it. She's like my daughter, stay away. And she's taken. So he was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna, this is shut, this is not happening. Okay. And then we never spoke again. And then after almost a year, I see him joining A.R. Rahman's band. So that's when we meet the second time. But what happened is, why I strongly believe we were determined to be together is because in that Goa show, he left his music charts on stage. I didn't know whose charts they were. I happened to take it after the show was over, and it stayed with me for 4 years throughout everything that I've been through, all my bad past, things went down bad with my ex. I don't want to make anybody look bad because I'm not here to spoil anybody's future, but let's just say that I didn't deserve that, and I cut it off. And then I stayed single for a while, and my friends, my brother like friends, I told them about what happened, and they said, we're glad you did that because you should have done that a long time ago. But when you're in love, you're blind, so you can't see anything else apart from that, and I'm this giver kind. So I'm like, no, I want to make this right. I can work this out. But it does, when it's not going to work out, it's just not going to work out. You should just step back. But I believed in working things out, but it didn't. So I cut it off. One day it was like an eye opener. The higher power just like opened my eyes and was like, you got to get out, girl. So I did that. And then when I stayed single in that time, my husband and I started talking. And he told me about all the things that he'd been through and all the things that I've been through. So we started sharing about our families and stuff, and we connected. And throughout the 4 years, we would talk on and off, and we would share about life and music, where he went to learn music, and how he doesn't come from a musical family, and I came from a musical family, how our cultures and just styles were so different, but we still connected on a deeper level, and our values were very similar. He was seeing this girl, and he would talk to me about this girl at that time when I was single, and I was like, in my head, I realized that, man, I think I really love this guy, but now he's seeing this girl and I cannot do anything because he likes this girl. So I stayed back and I just was a listener. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to marry this girl. I think she's the one. And I'm in my head, I'm like, oh God, what do I say? Because I really need to get this out of my system. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm really happy for you. I hope, whatever happens for the best, and then this girl was dealing with something from the past, and things went down the hill between them. And I was the happiest person on the planet that day. And he called me and he was like, well, I broke up with that girl because, this happened. And I was like, wow, fuck yeah, in my head. But then I was like, whatever happened for the best. And then in your head, that next day this person is going to come back. So before that happens, you must say what you feel. And so I did. I took the first step and I was like, hey, we've been friends for 4 years and our families know each other so well. And we have shared so much. I don't think anybody knows more than I do about you, and vice versa. And I said, after all the like blah, 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 I said, I think I really love you and I would like to see where this journey takes us. And he was like, Mo, I felt the same way about you for so many years, but I couldn't tell you because you were with this ex and the doors were shut. I didn't want to interfere. So he was this gentleman, and he kind of blocked his feelings and everything. And I was like, well, I was seeing where this goes. So I guess we both kind of waited in our own ways. And after we started dating, now he's in Chicago, I'm in Mumbai. Okay. This is all on the phone call. So one day we're video calling and I'm getting rid of all my old music charts, transcriptions. And I see this horn chart, and Mark is like, hey, wait, that's my chart. So in a way, it was like kind of like deja vu, like, oh my God, what just happened? I had his music chart all these years and I had so many opportunities to give it to him, but not once it occurred to me that I should do that. It just was out of my mind, but the chart stayed with me for 4 years. So yeah, the universe has its own ways of doing things, and it didn't take us much time to get married. We dated for like 4 months, and then we got married now 3 months into our marriage, and
well, God
the
bless you.
happiest time.
God bless you. It's so a few things. First, it's not the usual thing that happens that a guy can get promoted from the friend zone. But in this situation, it seems that there's some other, some other developments. It seems like that would make for a good movie.
True.
This sort of turns and twists. One thing that I've discussed, in this series of interviews,
Mm-hmm.
is, it's a different kind of person that's going to understand what a musician, what their lifestyle is going to be like.
True.
And dating as a musician, finding the right person is a real challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a
So
real
true.
challenge.
Yeah. Real challenge.
Yeah. And so, for instance, I mean, all the stuff that you're doing, and one thing that I've also said is this idea that as a professional musician, when normies, 9 to 5 folks, when they're on, you're on.
Mm-hmm.
When they're off, you're on. When they're on vacation, you're on.
Yeah.
When they're on holiday, you're on. When
Yeah.
it's Valentine's Day, you're on. When
Yeah.
it's Christmas, you're on. When it's New Year's, you're on. You're just on. And it takes a different kind of person to understand that sort of intensity, that requirement of time. Time is the one thing that we can't get more of.
Yeah.
Maybe
I wish we had more than 24 hours because it really falls short. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it is, time, but then the other thing is energy, right? So maybe you have the time, but if you don't have the energy, and often is the case that if you're in a relationship that is sort of requiring, it's taking more from you than it's giving, your energy is getting depleted.
This is something that I've learned with my experiences, which is if your relationship takes things away from you, then it's not worth it. If it's adding to your life, you should be there, because at the end of the day, you need to have that privacy when you're working. You need to, like, he's working right now in his studio. I'm here working, after I'm done with this, I will be working throughout the whole day. We're working in our studios. And then in the evenings, we come together and we play games or have the quality time together, Only a musician can understand a musician. Now, there are categories to that, though. If a musician is too famous and the other one is not, it can be a challenge sometimes, and vice versa, because I've been there and I know how insecure a person can feel if you're not keeping yourself busy, if you're not surrounding yourself with good amount of work and your goals, if you're not seeing if you can't foresee what you want to do in life and you're only dependent on the other half for your happiness, then you're going to be dependent all your life. And that's not cool, because you need to be happy yourself in your own zone as well. If you're not happy with your own self, then you can't make another person happy. You'll probably act for that moment, but like I said, it gets exhausting up to the point, and that relationship will fail up to the point.
Now, something I noticed is, did your husband change his last name?
Oh, no.
Okay.
In a way, like instead of me taking his last name, he took my last name. And I don't know how this works. Like my mother, she took my father's last name. So instead, she used to be Romia Banerjee. Now she's Romia Day because my father's surname is Day. And she completely got rid of her surname. But with us, we decided to keep my surname because that's part of who I am. You know, everybody knows me as Mohini Day. You know, if I just
Right.
become Mohini, it's like, oh my God. But that was not even a discussion, because he's so open-minded, and he's so supportive of everything. He's like I call him my hottie guard instead of bodyguard, because everywhere I go, he's with me, and he's like surrounding me, protecting me, and always wants the best for me. He launched my merchandise. That thing you see on the back wall tapestry, the design and stuff, the digital art. So we have it on, like, let me show you, like, cups. We have it on tumblers. Yeah, so all this kind of stuff. He surprised me with it a couple of months ago. He worked this out with like a artist, and he released my merchandise. So he always is looking forward to build and kind of like support me and build me more, expand me and expose me more, you know, with my work, which is really interesting, because he's a musician himself. If he wants, he can he can invest all his time within himself, you know, like I'm doing my own thing, and, you know, I'm doing my YouTube, I do my own thing. But we have a very different kind of dynamic, where I will sometimes walk into his studio and I'll listen to him play, and I'll be like, hey babe, I think if you put like a sharp 9 chord there, I think it'll sound cooler. And then he'll try it out, and I'll be like, thanks babe, that sounds really cool, you know, it sounds cooler. So we can have those conversations, and most of our conversations, I know people will expect it to be musical, but when we're in the studio, it's musical. But apart from that, we're only talking about life and our goals and what we want to do in terms of future and
I see.
experiences in general.
Yeah. So what I had thought was that you both took each other's last names, because your
Yeah, we did.
personal account on So that's what I
Yes,
was
we did.
saying.
Yeah. So
And
instead
then
of, but him doing as Mark Hartsuch Day, he did as Mark Day Hartsuch.
right,
Yeah.
right. I noticed that. You know, Joe Lovano, the great tenor saxophonist, and then the great vocalist Judy Silvano.
Mm-hmm.
So her last name was Silver, and then when they got married, she sort of put it's Silvano, right?
Cool.
So incorporated both names, and this is
Very
sort of
cool.
a creative way to sort of
Yeah.
maintain a certain identity, but then also be incorporating the new identity, sort of a thing,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is very interesting.
I mean, if people decide to have like kids in the future, then the kid is gonna have both the surnames, you know. And then if he or she in the future gets married and they have kids, then it's gonna keep growing. The exams might be over by just writing the name, because that will take so much time. So yeah, I mean, it was just something that we wanted to do because it was different, and I was like, hey babe, you really want to do that? You don't have to. We can just keep our own names. That's totally fine, you know. And he's like, no, I really want to do this. And I was like, okay, cool, that's very sweet.
All right, so what role has religion and spirituality played in your development as a person and as a musician?
Interesting. So, my father is very, very spiritual, and I grew up in a family who believed. My mom and dad both prayed after showers. You know, taught me how to read the Hanuman Chalisa, all these Mahabharat stuff. You know, books of gods and all that. And I did that as a kid growing up until I was probably 14, 15, and then I became rebellious, and I wanted to do things opposite way. So in my house, you know, parents have their own way of training kids, right? So my father was more like, if you don't do this, something bad is going to happen to you, and you will not get any success in your life. You will not be able to do anything. You will be unhappy. And I thought that was heavy, you know, as a kid growing up, you know, like, what? Really? If I stop doing this, how can that be affected? That's got no correlation at all. I was like, well, let me try it. Let me try not doing it. And I was like, so my father and I got into huge fights in the house because I was living with them that time still. I moved out when I was 18, bought my own house at 18 first. And then I could do whatever I want. But the time I was living with them, I had to, be a part of their kind of lifestyle, right? So I stopped praying after showers and I started eating non-veg on Saturdays and like Mondays. So those are the days you're not supposed to have non-veg if you're following a certain God. And I, even today, like from the age of like, since I was a baby till now, I have not eaten any vegetable. Like I hate vegetables. I will puke the shit out of my system. I'm a carnivore. Like I need meat in my system, otherwise I cannot play bass. Yeah, every day I need it.
I'm a fitness advocate, and there's this whole
You're a fitness
discussion.
advocate?
I am.
Wow, you gotta. Where do you live?
I'm sorry.
Where do you live? Where are you from?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Cool. Yeah, man, I've gained so much weight during this pandemic. I really need some help.
Yeah, let me tell you. Yeah, I've the percentages. I'm a bodybuilder, power lifter,
Oh,
and
I mean, I can tell. That's obvious.
but some of my sort of percentages, as far as my body weight, have not maintained. I have about maybe 10 pounds of stuff that I don't need. Let's put it that way. And but one of the discussions, there's this idea of having a balanced diet and what that's supposed to mean, and grains and vegetables and all of this other stuff.
Right.
Now, when you look at the animal kingdom, one thing that you'll notice immediately is that all of the animals that eat vegetables primarily and graze, they tend to be very big. So cows, for instance, are totally herbivores. Okay.
Right.
But then the animals that eat meat and that are carnivores, they will be muscly and low body fat and like this, right? And then, so I think that gives sort of like a clue or a key into, folks are like, okay, I'm a vegetarian, or I'm a, what do you call it? I'm vegan.
Eggitarian, and stuff like that.
Like this. But the problem with that is most of the time, at least in my experience, I'm not going to say most of the time, a lot of the folks that I know that are vegetarians or vegans, they eat really unhealthy. So they're still eating like Twinkies and fries and stuff like that. I remember
that ain't gonna do shit in the body.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll stick with my burger, and then you can have your fries and your Twinkie. And I think that I'll probably still end up being better in the balance. But eating fats, for instance, we used to think that was like really bad, but actually carbohydrates are much harder to get rid of. Right. And also we used to think that eating the yolk in an egg was like really bad for you because there's a lot of cholesterol there. Right. But actually your body does not create cholesterol. Does not create cholesterol from eating cholesterol. It creates cholesterol from carbohydrates.
Oh, cool.
So, so don't feel so bad about being a meat eater.
Oh no, I am super happy. People have told me as a kid growing up that you're gonna change after 5 years. I'm like, bet. I'm gonna bet on everything I have. I'm never gonna change. And I'm 25 and I've never changed because I cannot live without it. I would rather die and not like. I don't know how people can survive without meat, I can't, this is going to be really funny, but I categorize my event organizers as non-vegetarian and vegetarian event organizers. So if a vegetarian event organizer has contacted me, and mostly they're from Chennai or Bangalore, and they will put musicians up in a vegetarian hotel where the buffet will be like completely vegetarian. I specifically mention on my tech writer, I need meat. So please put me up in a non-vegetarian hotel. Yeah. There have been like there has been one time where I went to the city, checked into my hotel, I go to the buffet and it's all veg. I call up the event organizer. I'm like, you need to take me to a restaurant. I'm sorry, but I only eat meat. So yeah. And then he took me to this restaurant. I ate my food. Then I went to the venue, did my gig. And at the gig too, they have vegetarian food. I'm like, well, I'm going to do some, takeaway or something on the way back to the hotel. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this
Well,
thing here where like in godly events you don't have non-veg food, so that's the thing.
mhm.
But coming back to
So,
answering your question, so my spiritual side, I started not praying, right? And I saw that a lot more gigs started coming to me, a lot more success started coming to me, a lot more money started coming into my account. And I was like,
mhm.
Dad, everything's fine. In fact, everything's even better now. I think I'm going to continue doing that. And he got so mad. I was like, Dad, I think we should respect each other for the way we want to follow our life, for the way we want to lead our life. Everybody has their own way of dealing things. And I'm just today's girl and I have my own ways of dealing things. And, approach is different, outlook is different, everything's different. If that works for you, I'm not going to be here telling you don't do that or do this, because
Right.
it works for me. No, that works for you. I respect you. Go do that. So I've become like that over the years where I will hear people talk about Jesus a lot to me. And I'm like, that's amazing. I feel like if you can have faith in that something, even if it's just a candlelight, like if you can have faith in something and that can give you that type of power to do something greater in life, be that. Why not? Some people need
Mhm.
to have that belief. Some people need to have some type of energy like fed into something so that they can talk to that thing, and then it can give you, if you put it out, you get it back. For me, music has been that. I give it through my
Right.
music and I get it back because I give to the universe like that. So yeah, and I try to help a lot of young little girls out here who are struggling, and I donate. And if they want to do music, I take them to my dad because dad has, of course, been my father, and he's been my mentor and my guru. So I take them there, and he will teach them. And sometimes they'll come over at my place, and I'll teach them some exercises. So yeah, I feel like doing those things makes me happy and makes me feel like I am putting something greater out there and doing something that will carry throughout the rest of my life, and even after I'm gone, they can do the same thing and pass on.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying the thing about you stopped praying and then the gig started coming.
Yeah.
Um, maybe it was just a delayed effect.
Who knows? Could be that.
Yeah. Right.
But I would like to believe that I'd like to put in that time that that 1 hour after shower of praying and looking at something that's been made by our hands and
Yeah.
just talking to the figurines in front of us, all the
Right.
Indians are going to get so mad at me because I'm calling all the gods, the momentums, as figurines. But for me, it's been that since my childhood. I've always thought about them as that. And then I'm like, man, I should put this time into my work. I should really get better at
Mm.
what I do. I should put that 1 hour into studying how to read it right, or studying something
Yeah.
that I don't know about, that will really help me. This is waste of time.
Yeah. I don't see spirituality or religion as a way to sort of control outcomes. So,
Yeah.
like for instance, if I pray fervently, then good things will happen to me. But if I don't, then bad things will happen to me. I've never seen it that way. I see it more like I'm just basically cultivating an aspect of myself so that
Right.
come what may, you know, what's the thing? It rains on the righteous and on the unrighteous, so to speak.
Hmm.
It's sort of cultivating certain qualities in myself, that kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, I believe
And
in
never as a,
every
and
generation.
yeah,
Sorry. What did you say?
and never as a like a pushy thing.
Yeah.
I think
Never.
that's one of
Yeah.
those. People have to decide for themselves what they want to believe, what they want to follow,
Yeah.
what sort of patterns they want to enshrine in their daily,
Right.
in their daily life.
But
They have to
believe
make
it
those
or
decisions
not,
for them.
like even today, a vast majority in India have really strong beliefs and strong superstitious beliefs, and they go by that because I don't know, maybe it works for them, or they're just stuck in their ways and they just don't want to change because that's what they were told as a kid growing up. So their upbringing was totally different. Whereas now, people are standing up for themselves more and wanting to be more like out there and independent, so they want to build and design their life their own way. Whereas in the back in the days, kids were not that like out there. They would really be scared to even answer back to your parents. If something was said, okay, that's it. You don't answer back, or you don't even try to fight or argue about it. That's it. But now I think we have thicker skin.
Mm. So, something else that I think is widely accepted, and this is amongst people that are religious and people that are not religious, is this idea of it's basically the concept of karma,
Oh yeah,
where
I
if you
believe
put
in that.
you put positive things out in the world, and then
Yeah.
positive things are going to tend to come back.
Yeah, I totally
And
believe in that. I have experienced it for myself, and that's why I believe it. I always like to try things out to see if it actually works and if it's a thing. Things, this karma thing is a real thing for sure. It has worked for me, and all the things that I've been through, I have never. I think the let me put it this way. Long story short, it's like where I'm at right now. I'm so happy, in every way. My career is great. My blessed with a great husband. I'm this happiest that I've ever been, and I'm here today because of all the doings that I did, all the things that I put out in the universe. The higher power saw it and gave it back to me. And people who want bad for you, they deserve bad, but I never have wanted anything bad for them. If they have done something bad, in some ways or the other, the universe has punished them. It is crazy, but I've seen that happening. Can't give out too many details, but people will understand what I'm trying to say. People who want bad for you will get hurt at some point, and they will get sense at some point, even if that means like years later. I've seen that happen in front of my eyes, where I was always that person trying to help out and trying to build something, and the other one is probably not, and then that person gets hit so bad every time that it shows in front of your eyes that, oh my god, okay, I should really get out now. I should really understand what's happening around me, because these energies are not lying. These vibes are not lying. This is real, what you're feeling right now. So I always tell girls out here, be your own boss, be independent, and after you build something for yourself, then you go out there and make your own choices and build a life with somebody else. Until then, don't even think about building something with someone else. Partnership can be a B. If you cannot trust that person and you want to still have partnership, it's going to fail. It's going to like fail big time. That's why I feel like you should only do partnerships, and like if you want to have a company together or something like that with business and stuff, you should do it only after you have some sort of like agreement. And of course, if you're doing it within the family, then everything should be laid out clean and clear, like water.
yeah.
Because yeah, things can be tricky when it comes to business and working with your own people. It can be sometimes hard to deal with.
Yeah, I think working on yourself so that when you enter a relationship, there's a whole person there. You frequently hear this, 50% of a man and 50% of a woman makes 50% of a relationship, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
In a relationship, at least one that's going to be worth something, no longer can you have two independent folks. You have to have two codependent folks, right? So you're going to have to lean on the other person. And if they ain't worth nothing, then, then it's the relationship's not going to be worth anything.
Yeah, you have the sense of understanding and the sense of, the most important thing is trust, and then of course, communication is the key to every type of success. Again, that's subjective, but communication needs to be there.
Yeah, I suppose you can say it's subjective. I think there's a lot of relationship research to suggest that those things that you just said are the most important things, because you can kind of get through other stuff.
Yeah.
If the money ain't coming in, you can figure it out. If
you have
if you go
to
through
keep
some
your
tragedy,
communication open.
Yeah, if you go through some tragedy and things just totally change, you can figure it out. Obviously, you need to have that sort of ironclad commitment that says that no matter what, come what may, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm gonna stick it out and I'm gonna work on this. If you have folks that have that sort of disposition, it's good to hear someone that is your age say that communication and trust are critical components, that they're maybe the most important components in a relationship, because it seems that these days, and it seems that disproportionately it's women that feel this way, that basically the sort of butterflies in your stomach, the sort of euphoric, every moment is full of romance, that somehow is the primary consideration. Of course, that stuff goes away after a while.
Yeah, exactly. It does. I can understand if that's something that a girl has or a guy has never experienced before and they want to, because that's how movies show, right? Oh my God, this girl's hair is flying and this guy's arms are open and the slow music. Yeah, they show it that way. So everybody's like, dreaming about it, that I'm going to feel the same way. But the reality is different. When things are that good to be true, they are most likely to fall apart in a second. Yeah, that's why Mark and I, we never had like a proposal or anything. It was just like, hey, let's do this. It was just a talk. We communicated, and it was like the best decision of my life. Yeah, it's
good for
crazy.
you, and good for you. Congratulations. It is great to find someone that will understand you and that's going to be there. And especially in a time like this, I think a lot of folks have discovered that, man, I've been going about this thing the wrong way. I've been pursuing only career goals or personal goals the whole time.
Yeah.
And now there's nobody to enjoy this empire that I've created.
Yeah, I'm really blessed to have him during this time. It would have been more tough if I didn't have someone in my life at this point, especially during this like sad. Everything around us is just so sad, because somebody's dying, somebody's family friend is sick, and this and that, and it's just really, really. I don't even know how to put it, because we can't even do anything to help, apart from just like get on a video call or like a call and say that, I feel so bad for you, but what can I do for you? It's such a tough situation that this COVID has put us all through. But yeah, on another note, I think coming back to what we were talking about is like, even when you're in a relationship, when you start living with that person, there are a lot of things that you start discovering.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Looks like you know, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been married for 13 years.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah,
This is
you know, that's another
yeah.
ball game to get all together.
and we have a 7-year-old.
Wow, amazing. So yeah, I say my parents were like completely against me living with somebody before I get married and stuff, you know.
Mm.
But that was the best thing I decided to do with my ex, and my eyes were opened by the higher power. That 1 month that I lived with my ex, it was like bam, bam, bam. This guy is not a man. This guy is still a boy, you know, and I'm this ATM machine. I'm running this place, you know, and this guy is on his phone playing video games. So yeah, you know when to stop. But yeah, when you start living together, then comes the requirement of communication and openness about, you know, okay, you do this, I'll do this. Time management, you know, because we're both musicians, we have to, in the very start, we were like, hey, babe, you know, I'll be busy constantly in the studio recording. How will we spend time together? Let's make a schedule for ourselves, like a rough schedule, you know? So we decided, okay, we'll have breakfast together. And if one of us is too busy, then we'll skip lunches, or we'll, you know, have lunch individually out there, because I have a maid who cooks and cleans the house. So food is made, and some days we like to cook together. So we do that once or twice a week when we're not too occupied with work. And then there are some days that we have allotted to just play music together, not for anybody, but just for ourselves, where we make music together. And we've written like 7 songs together now, and those are getting mixed and mastered now, and we cannot wait to release them.
Now, I'll tell you. So I have. This is my second marriage, and I tried living with folks that before I got married. I did that
Right.
before. My ex-wife, we lived together before we got married,
Right.
and still was, you know, terrible.
Yeah.
This my wife now, we didn't live together
Wow.
before we got married.
Yeah.
Now there's some interesting research data on this point. Very interesting. Now, I think the conventional wisdom is that the more information you have about someone, the more likely you're going to stay together, because you'll figure out how you're compatible. And so stuff like living together before you get married, that makes sense, because then you're going to understand certain things that, you know, it's going to be hard for the person to hide everything. Right? That kind of thing. But actually, the research data suggests that if you live together, and this, you know, this is a study. This is, you know, there's going to be anecdotal evidence that's going to mean different things. And of course, I know a bunch of folks that lived together before they got married, and they have totally successful marriages. So it's not a death knell at all. But the research data suggests that you're more likely to get divorced if you live together before you get married. And the reason is that if you live together before you get married, then subconsciously you could be teaching yourself that though we live together, this is not necessarily permanent. So even after you get married, nothing seems like it really changed, except for you have some legal paperwork. And so then you sort of into the marriage.
Right. Yeah. But I think there are a lot of different types of the person in the relationship, the two people that are in the relationship, one could be a doctor and one could be a musician. You know, that dynamic is totally different. How many years have you dated before you even lived together? I dated my ex for 4 years before I lived in for that 1 month, and it just was like, bam, you know?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so I think those factors also count, where how much time have you known this person, how many times have you met that person's family, because a lot of it comes from that as well. They might not be showing it because those are the starting days, but at the end of the day, you come from where you come from, so yeah, those...
you have to be compatible. One thing
absolutely.
that you were saying about being with a musician, someone that understands you. Now, my wife is not a musician. I mean, she sang in choir, and her mother was a musician. Her dad was a touring musician, like this. So she sort of
understands. She likes music. Yeah.
And she sang and she played violin and stuff like that.
Wow.
Like through school. But she's a dancer, actually.
Oh, cool.
And she's got a dance company, and we collaborate together on that. And I'm her musical director, which means that I edit a lot of music. I write music. I procure live musicians to perform for certain selections, and I schlep a lot of stuff.
Wonderful.
So it's like right in the job, the job description, schlep. Actually, I think schlep a lot of stuff is at the top. Then it says, and then you may be able to do some of these other things. After you schlepped enough stuff. Okay. And of course, that's a benefit that she has from me being her husband and not just someone that's contract.
But you benefit a lot in a lot of ways because she's your wife too. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. She's terrific and creative. I think because of her creativity, she does interior decorating, and she does repurposed art. So she's very creative. She's creative in all of the ways that I am not.
But I see a similarity, which is, even though I haven't met her and you've just spoken about her and I've been speaking to you, the one thing that I see is you both are very, very driven, Yeah. You both are very driven, and that is amazing because that's what you need. That's what I was saying in the very start of the interview, that you really need to know how to surround yourself with the things that you like. And that person cannot be the only thing that you want to surround with. Of course, you love that person and you want to be with that person for the rest of your life, but you really need to have spaces privately as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If, now it's interesting. Do you think of yourself as being introverted or extroverted?
I think I used to be an introvert, not anymore.
So here's what. Okay, so people are surprised when I tell them that I'm an introvert.
I'm not,
I do a lot of
actually.
stuff.
I'm not. I see yourself being an introvert. Of course, now you're interviewing me, so that's your job. You're doing that. But the personality that I see, I can tell you're an introvert. Yeah.
And but often is the case that people are confused by me saying I'm introverted because I'm on the stage all the time and I'm teaching and all the stuff that I'm doing online and everything. Yeah. But the thing is that with all of those activities, I'm not competing for anyone's attention.
Right.
And the thing that is most energy depleting for someone that's introverted is small talk. Having to small talk. My wife is extroverted, and so often is the case. It's worked very well for me because
that's great. Yeah.
Because we go to events where I don't know anyone, and where an hour there would require 2 days of sleeping.
Yeah.
She sets all the conversations up. She's like, hey, you go over there, that person, they're an academic also, you might have something in common with them, because the surface talk is really challenging for me.
Interesting.
It's actually...
So I think so like I said, I think I'm the extrovert because people come up to me and be like, want to have a conversation, and I'll be like, hey, amazing, here's my email ID, and they'll talk to me if it's a business, proposal or whatever. And then through the emails, I will let Mark do all the talking because he's a very good, I would say, like his English is better than mine, obviously, because he's an American and I'm an Indian. Although I did go to an English school, but I'm still getting
your
better.
English. Let me say, that was one thing I wanted to mention. Your English is very good.
Thank you. I am very, very happy to hear that. I'm still getting better.
Your English is very good.
I'm
It's
still
very
getting
good.
better. And I tell Mark to correct me every time. I'm like, did I say that right? And he's like, yeah, but it sounded okay. You know, he's sweet, but he'll correct me because I want him to. But at first he was like, no, I think you sound great. I love the way you sound. I think it's so cute. I was like, no, I don't want to be cute. I want to be correct.
Yeah. Okay, so I just had like one or two other things I wanted to ask you about, and then
Sure.
So one of them is about your studio. So
Sure,
I noticed that recently that you either created a studio or revamped your studio, or
I did everything myself actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to
all
talk
these
a little
panels that sure. So all these panels that you see, if I could just show you actually. So in this corner is my drum kit that Mark and I bought together during our dating days. Before we decided even getting married actually. Yeah. So that's a Pearl drum kit. I've been learning to play the drums, so I practice once in a while. And then that's an Ibanez bass. That's a mayonnaise bass. Yes. And that's a mayonnaise bass. And that's my 8x10 standard HF cabinet. And 4x10 Mark bass. 2x10 vintage 8x10. And my Moorheads. Let me open that. I'll show you. That's the Little Mark, Eagle One, Big Bang, Vintage Series Gold Line, another 800, which is the US voltage. And then I have two more coming. I got this cabinet made just for these head amps. I have two more coming that I'm going to put here. And then I have like all my cables and pedal boxes down there. And this has aux cables, headphones. This has all my charts. This is my ring light. You can see yourself there. I was sitting here. And that's my pedal that I'm playing through. That's my Focusrite sound card. And that's a Little Mark 1000. Pedals, more pedals. And some of my magazines are there. String sets. And more string sets. And my doggy.
I was gonna say I thought I saw a doggy.
Yeah, I have two doggies. The other one is probably outside. I'll show you. But yeah, in this corner, this mirror is not supposed to be here, but I was shooting a video before you called. So I needed to check myself out that I'm looking okay. So I put the mirror in front of the camera so I can sometimes look at myself. And this is the DV Mark guitar amp with a 6663. This has a very cool feature where it has a voltage switch at the back. So you can switch it from 240 to American voltage, which is what, 120. 120, right, yeah. And then I have more basses, which is the classic 5 Komodos Mayonnaise. This is also classic 5 Komodos. This was my first bass from Mayonnaise. This was the third one. And this one is the most played one, which has LEDs on the side.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, this is the Mark bass, Richard Bona series bass. This is another Ibanez, and this is a gift that I got from an uncle in Chicago. I was gigging in Chicago in 2011, I think, or 12. And after the show, he got so happy that he gifted me this upright bass. Yeah. So yeah, I have two more in the storeroom, but it's such a mess. But yeah, let me show you my. Hi, baby. Come here. Come here, baby. Come here. Come here. Oh, look at that. Yeah, this is a chow chow.
It's a teddy bear. And this one is a rescue.
Do your dogs speak English?
That's a very good question, actually. I think they understand Bengali more because I'm speaking to them in Bengali. Oh, hi. Okay.
Well, we have another artist that we can interview now.
That's right. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you about is your do you have anything you want to plug? So what are you up to right now?
I am up to a lot of recording sessions, a lot of amazing ones, because I got to play with Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers. I got to play with John Wackerman, who's Chad Wackerman's brother, guitar player. I got to play with Chad at Mama Jama Jamathon. And I also made a song for this guy. Shit, I'm forgetting his name. Sometimes I have to go back to my emails and check. Oh yeah, Dave Liebman. So yeah,
I interviewed
a lot
Dave.
of exciting things happening. Very, very busy with like production work. Mark gifted me this bass station that I have here. So I've never played keyboards in my life. I don't even know what the notes are on there, but I just go by my ear. So I play by ear and I do things, and I use like tones from there, and I use some stuff from Splice, and I program some stuff. And yeah, so I've been doing a lot of like production work lately, and a lot of reharmonizing for people for their songs and composing. So yeah, everything has been really, really good. There's an album coming up where Vinny Colaiuta is on drums, and I'm on bass. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of fun things.
Yeah, well, tell Dave Liebman I said hello.
Absolutely.
He was interviewed in the same series.
Oh wow, awesome.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time and energy. Keep doing all the great stuff that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was lovely talking to you.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching you.
Thank you. Give my love to your wife. I hope we can meet someday if I'm ever in Ohio.
Yeah. Well, doesn't necessarily have to be in Ohio, but it would be really great to be able to play with you at some point.
Oh, absolutely. So, I'm actually moving to LA like in July first week, so maybe in LA someday. Yeah.
All right. And maybe when they have a NAMM show again, we could connect.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
See you later.